Hey everyone, welcome to this Power BI journey. Whether you are diving into Power BI or data analytics in general for the first time, I believe this will be, or trying even to leveling up your skills, I believe this will be your right place and this will be the right video for you. Actually, this video, the main important part about this video, that this video or this session in general is a tailored experience, will be like a tailored experience or crafted to make it more easy for you to generate a very useful insights and will be very, very helpful for you in your daily work or whatever you do in whatever domain you are working for. And actually, the most important question you want to ask for yourself in general, why do you need Power BI or any other visualization tool like such as Tableau? Actually, these kind of tools, it's really, really very, very important. It's not comparable with Excel. It's really far beyond the Excel because using this kind of visualization tools, you can really increase your productivity a lot. Your productivity will increase. Your data analytics skills will be much more stronger. You can generate very useful insights. You can see things you never seen before. If you're speaking about, for example, KPIs, visualization, or whatever, this will give you more another figure and also more advanced figure to try to catch many things in the network. And also this will be very highly appreciated from whatever customer you're looking for. And also from the delivery point of view, this will super up or speed your delivery more than you can even imagine. And this is all from my personal experience. Okay, for this session, actually, I'm going to cover all these parts which is mentioned here in the screen. First part, I will just go through some of RF use cases. I will show some of the insights which is being created before. And after that, I will just try to cover some of the basics. This is especially if you are very new for the Power BI, so you need to learn about the basics point of view. Then I will go through the advanced charts, how to create some of the advanced charts, which is this will be one of the core points to generate useful insights. And I will be covering some of the important functions, then map creation and dataset modeling, and I will be ended by the Power Query. After I finalize all these contents, I will also create another video to create like dashboards, KPIs or whatever other things, and from the beginner to till we end it together, because this like will merge all these points together, and it will help you like you can even take some ideas from whatever I'm going to present. So now I would like to take use for some of the useful use cases. Then we can after that we can start with our session. Okay, this is just a small sample for what you can later on create whenever you learn or you complete this kind of video. You can generate such useful insight. This is just a few sample. This is just like was just a dashboard insight which we can identify some of the top worst sites in terms of you're speaking about crowdsourcing data. You can identify the top worst postal codes or sites. Even you can compare with different operators. You can split your SVT into ranges, and this is like actually can be done per city or site ID or vendor or even operator and so on. Actually, this is will be very useful. And also one of the other examples I would like to create, this is if you're speaking about, for example, traffic insight or KPIs dashboard in general, you can see this one, it's having many different subsheets in the Power BI templates, which is actually having very useful insights to identify many of the problems in your network. For example, the sites with very low traffic, and top traffic, top revenue sites, and so on. I'll even visualize it in the map and so on. And also, this is you can correlate between different sites, data sets, for example, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. And the most important point, for example, this is very easy to use cell level data, for example, or site level data. So this will give you the chance to even deep dive more into the things whenever you need, because you know that Excel usually suffering from this kind of cannot handle this kind of big data, while Power BI can do that actually. One of the more examples using this when I teach you about the advanced charts, you can generate a very useful insights. For example, this kind of CDF, for example, if you have CDF, you can compare between different draft tests or whatever, even in the benchmarking point of view, to be very able to see the gain or even to find the gap analysis between different, for example, operators or whatever. For example, this operator 2 was much better than the other two operators in terms of coverage, and it was very clear from the CDF, like even much more clear when you make it a comparison for the line chart and so on. And for example, this scatter chart, this like can help you to identify your layering strategy. For example, in this particular area, you can see that the CQI start to degrade after the level of minus 110. And actually, this gives indication for your tuning that you need to start tune your current learning strategy even in the handover and what, and other things like this called Jack model and there's a histogram. So now let's jump into the session and see what we can do and what we can achieve. So now let me take to you to the basics part. So for the basics part, actually, I just need first to explain what is Power BI and what kind of pages we have. For example, as you can see here in the Power BI, this is when you insert in the home page. This home page will be covering most of the whatever you need to know about Power BI. But above here, you can see you have home, you have insert, you have modeling, view, optimize, and so on. The other external, this is something I have added, but you will not find it in Power BI. So generally, you will be in the home page. What I would like to explain here that in home page, you can see in the left figure here, we have something called report view, which is this main page. We have it here in general. And here we have the table view. This is like whenever you want to have a look into your data set. I will be go through this one. Then you have something called model view. And this model view, like also to try to connect some of your data sets together. For example, if you have 3 or 4 different data sets or 3 different tables, as for example shown in the right here, so you can connect all these kind of together. So first, I would like to go one by one. So for example, if you click in the report page, so it will be showing this whatever you can see here. So the first part, this is your canvas, or this is where you need to build your dashboards or the KPIs insights, and this is the page for whatever you need. And then you have a filter page. This is filter page. It's having actually 3 options. Like if you need to filter in a particular visualization after you build the visual, or in a particular page, as you can see bottom down here, we have different pages. This is actually created by me, but usually you find one page, but you can create many pages, like if you want to navigate between them as well. So you can have a filter in one particular page, and this filter page will be applied for this particular page, or even you can make a filter here. Whatever you apply in this filter, it will be applied for all the pages we have it, and it's already written here. Second part, it's about the visualization pane. This visualization pane, actually, it's just showing how to create the visualization, and you can see, like usually it's consisting of having all the standard visualization, as you can see here, scattered, line, column, um, donut chart, or even by chart, and so on, even the maps and so on. So this is like the second one here. This is visualization, and under the same one, you can build the chart, and you can also format your chart. For example, if you click here, one of the charts, it will be appearing here, as you can see here. In this particular case, once you click here, it will be starting showing some first one at data visualization. If you added the data here, it will start plotting the visualization. I'll give some examples. Then the second one, you can format it. Then the third one, you can add some analytics point of view. The last part on the right, this is your data, which you imported. You're working here, and this your data will be used to fill all the insights here. So I will go, after I finish these 3 parts, into some of the basics of how to build the charts and even how to format it. So now going to the table view. This is, for example, if you want to look to have a look into your data. So if you click here, like for example, this drive test inputs, as you can see here, it's just showing some level for the drive test during the drive test for the serving, and also some of the register queue, and here is showing the neighbors and also levels and the type of the handover and so on. And if you click in this data set, another one, also it will start plotting here, for example, date. So it's just giving you visualization about how your dates is going on, and also will be explaining how to modify at new columns and so on. But once you click here in this table, you will find that something called table tools, and also to give some more options to add a new columns or even new table and so on. So this we don't really need it now. I will be covering later in a more advanced stage. So now jumping to the last part, this is the data model. Actually, simply data model, like once you create whatever you add here, it will be appearing in data model. So you move to right, you'll find all these 3 inputs, which is, for example, KPIs, these 3 inputs. So see, these 3 inputs is equivalent to your data sets which you have in here. So assume, for example, you having 3 or 4 different subsheets, for example, one for 2G data, 3G data, 4G, 5G data, and you want to link between all of them. So in general, you need to create some relation between these tables to be able to plot all these together. This is the just brief example for what it means by data modeling. And usually, like in Power BI, the most useful example, and always to have something called support table. Usually you add an external table to try to build your visual or build your modeling through connecting all the data sets to this particular table, so it will make it more easy for you. Now let's go back to the report view here. So once you go to back to the report view now, I would like to build a visual and start building visual. This is just for the very basics. So for example, I will build a line chart as shown here. So once I click on the light chart here, it will be jumping. So you can click here, it will come here directly. So once you click here, you can see now we have this kind of information come on, which is x-axis, y-axis, secondary axis, legend, and small multi and tooltips and so on. So for example, let's try to have one trend. So I will here in the right and figure, if you know already the data, if you don't know like have many data, so you can search for whatever you need. For example, here I want to get the date. So I just search for the word date, and I'm going to use the data from dataset one. So I'll drag and drop here to the data axis. It's actually here, as you can see, it automatically creates year, quarter, month, day. But in case if you want the day only, you can even remove all of this, or you just click here, then you just make as date only. So this will give you the date. So now assume that I want to plot, for example, my latency, which is under this KPI or whatever KPI you would like to. So once you click it, it just directly put it here. You can move it even to secondary axis. You can drag and drop like this. Now I have bought two, but because it's the same value, so to give you the same value. So now, actually, if you can see this like summation value, this means this is like a whole number. This is a number which can be aggregated. So if you click here, you will find that this currently is taking the sum. This currently is taking the sum. So you can change the aggregation. For example, I would like to have it average value. So now you have it as an average. So now your average latency, for example, is 36. So this is actually applied for all the other charts. But what I would like to keep in your mind that if you would like to make any formatting for any chart type, so what you need to do in the same part of the visualization pane, you have something called format your visual. So if you click in this format your visual, what will happen? You'll find this kind of things. For example, x-axis, y-axis, secondary axis. So in case if you would like to modify new UI x-axis, for example, you would like to remove this legend thing. So if you open it here, you will find, for example, the title, line, date, this title. So if you click it here, this means you are disabling the title. And another part you can do, for example, if you would like to make it bold or whatever, and this is applied for whatever chart you'd like for. And we have, especially for x-axis, this might be useful whenever you need it. For example, this is continuous. This means it will be applying as a dates and like taking continuous value. But in case if you want to make it as a categorical, you can just click here. It will showing all the dates with its format. It will not consider it as a date. It will just plot whatever you have as this particular thing, and format also can be changed. This will be discussed later. So I'll take it as a continuous. And the same applied, for example, if you would like to add a grid lines, you can just come here, add a vertical grid lines, and same. Also, there is a useful function called zoom slider. I will be showing this part. This in case if you want to focus on a particular area, you can do like this. This I will show you use cases for this one. Now, and this is like if you add the markers, so you can explore all these kind of things. But what I would like to mention that all the time under visualization, if you want to format anything, you can come here and you will find it here, and even you can search here, for example, legend. You can, it will give you a legend. If you have a legend here, it will be coming at this particular area. And let's give an example. For example, I would like to add a legend for the operator. So if I added, if you go back to the this visualization, you drag and drop here. So now it's showing three operators. And if you're going back to this data, actually, as you can see, this particular chart, it's having a different values here, x-axis, y-axis. It will be different from one to another, but usually it's very common. So for example, this is if you want to give legend, this is if you want secondary access KPI, and this is tooltip. For example, if you add another metric, let's, for example, speed. I will add, for example, the downlink speed here in this tooltip, just to quickly explain this one would do. I will also change it. You can keep it whatever you want, but this is based on your demand. I'll make it average for example. So what this tooltip actually do? Once you click in this particular area, it will showing some information. You can see now you're considering that operator one having average downlink speed 145 and the latency 32.89. So if you remove this downlink speed, if you click here again, you will find only the latency value. So the tooltips actually add whatever you would like to see. When you click different points here, it will add this information to your visual. This is applicable for all the charts and even the maps and so on. So this is actually the second, the port which I would like to highlight. Formatting we already discussed. And one of the most important also function, it's the last one, is called add further analysis to your visual. Assume now you are doing a benchmark and you would like, you did you take an action of the 3rd of May. I would like to add a line here, right? You would like to add a line here just to see what happens after your benchmark. And this is usually do in Excel. So if you add a constant, like for example, x-axis constant line, and you add a line here, for example, you will just give the dates. For example, I would like to add a 3rd of May 2022. So if you go back here, 3rd of May 2022, you can show here, as you can see. So in this case, it will adding a line here. So now you can benchmark your things. And actually, this is also one of the things. For example, y constant, if you would like to add a constant line, for example, at 30, for example, you have a specific average, you are comparing this particular average. So taking this one here, if you change this value again, it will go up and up again. See now, this is, for example, if you give another line, and even you can highlight it here and so on. And this line, for example, you can give the value of this particular line. If you click this data label, it will be showing the 40. So this is also important. And you can have minimum, even average line. If you just create it, it will take overall average line for all the speeds, which you have it here mentioned in this chart. So this is also one of the important parts about the data building, visualization, and so on. And as I mentioned, the same example will be for all the charts. Whenever you click on the chart, it will be showing this visualization and formatting and the add further analysis. And keep it to your mind, because this will be cleared in all the next slides. So now this was about the basics part. And last part I didn't highlight it. Under the this is Power BI. Under Power BI, there is something called, if you click on the home page and you make transform data, this transform data, if you click it here, it will take you to something called Power Query, and this will be explained in details. Also, I'll give you I'll take you into the points for this part. This is actually simply if you want to make some data cleaning, you want to remove some columns, modify some of the naming of the columns, add some additional columns, modify the names, replace some values. As you can see here, for example, I would like to remove this part, remove this date. Once I do it, it will be automated. This will be directly removed. If I return back, you can see in the right here, you have a remove column. So actually data query is very important whenever you have an unclean data. Your data is not cleaned and you need to clean this data, and you want to make it automated, to make it like automated, like whenever you import your data all the time, it will be directly cleaned up through the steps which you applied. This one will be covered in details, but this is you need it when you consider that your data is not clean and you need to clean it up. Now, the part I would like to highlight now, before going to the advanced chart, that the first part you're doing that, for example, if you clean this part and they assume you don't have anything, like you don't have any data here at all. So the first part you need to upload is your dataset, right? So in dataset, if you would like to upload dataset, you need to go up here in the home page again. Then you will find this get data. Once you click data, you find you have a different sources which you can be used. For example, I will click in more to show it all of it. I click in the more, you'll find that now you have Excel workbooks, you can have CSV, you can have JSON file, you can folder, and this I will usually the most things we are using is a folder or CSV or Excel workbook. This is like if you are importing for Excel workbook, this means it will be only one Excel. You need to update the data on it whenever you want to refresh your data. Folder, for example, assume that you are building a KPIs dashboard, and this KPIs need to update it with the new dates every second day. So you can just import your data for folder and just drop your new data inside this folder, and it will be automatically combined and updated within your Power BI. So now let me show an example after I import. So here I will click Excel workbook. Once I click here, it will take me for this kind of thing. So I will just need to go to a specific folder. For example, I need to update this dataset 1.1. So once I uploaded here, it should come in the right here. It will come with the name dataset 1.1, and you will see it now once it's imported. This okay. So now you can see here. Just like, for example, you can make transform. It will take you into the Power Query to clean the data. So I have a clean data already. My data is organized. So I can just load it up here. Once I load it, so Now it will be start uploading the data, like depend on the data size. This one was for mega, so it will not take very long time. Now it's being uploaded here in the dataset, and as you can see, it's called dataset, and here is this is, and actually this was a folder name. It's giving the sets, and even you can modify it from here. For example, call it dataset 1.1, for example. And this is the information was in the set. Then you can now start building your charts. Now in the next part, I'm going to explain about the advanced chart, which will be very useful for you. Uh, so let's move forward. Okay, now let's cover the second part, which is related to the advanced charts. I will try to cover what I have mentioned here, which is CDF, scatter, and so on. So let's see what we have. So for example, if you are speaking about stacked chart, usually in the Excel file, right, you can have this kind of formatting in case if you're doing some KPIs, benchmarking, and so on. You want, for example, to compare between 4G and 5G FDD, TDD value, 5G also FDD and TDD value as average, and so on and so forth, and also between different operators, and to have something similar to this format. So I will explain how you can do this in Power BI. Also, for example, assuming that you would like to compare between the speed in two different in the same chart to be stacked like this, the left figure to be by FDD and TDD, and even you can make it the three operators separately for technology in three different figures. Also, I'll be showing this one. So now the first part you would like to do, you need to do that. For example, let's try to create something similar to this one. So now again, just to recall whatever I mentioned, you need to go to the your visualization part, right? So visualization part, you need to click into the column chart. So I will need to click here in the cluster column chart as an example. So it will just pop up here. So now what I need to fill, I have x-axis and y-axis and legend, right? So for example, my x-axis is operator. So I need to add the operator name. So I will add operator name in the x-axis. And my speed is the downlink throughput, for example. Speed is the y-axis. So now I would have like this, which is average. So now I have this kind of three values. Now I need to add the technology as well to the x-axis. So if you added the technology to the x-axis, let's see how it will come. So now see it's like merging operator 1 4G, operator 1 5G, and so on. So now let's try to add also the FDD technology and TDD technology, for example, also to the x-axis. So actually this is how it all looks like once you import it in the beginning. So the first part we would like to do here, if you click into this part here and this chart, you will find, let me first clear the title from here. Just clicking, as I mentioned, any format you need just to click here, just click the title of the chart. So this is how it appears. I need now to get a figure similar to the left figure. So what I need to do, first thing I need to do is just click in here and go again to the format and check the x-axis format. Click the x-axis. So you'll find that it's concatenated the labels. So whatever labels you are adding to the x-axis will be concatenated. For example, I added operator 1, 4G, and FDD, for example, it will be operator 1, 4G FDD. So this is what I don't need. I need to be unconcatenated. So it will be coming like this part. But actually the main important part, usually it doesn't come like this. Usually it come appear like this part. Usually once you imported this figure, it will come probably like this part. So now when I click this here, I will just drilling up to the operator name. So now when it comes like this one, I need again to be showing at this figure on the left. So what you can need, you see up here, you have different levels. You have drill up, you have click to turn drill down, and here also go to the next level. So if I click go to the next level to go to the technology. For example, it moved from operator technology. If I clicked again, it will go to the LDDDD. So now what I need to do, I need to go again to the first level, which is up here, operator, and I need to show all these kind of levels to all together. So I need to click here and expand all down one level in the hierarchy. So I need to click here. So in this case, it will be showing, as you can see here, the technology operator one, 4G and 5G, and also I need to click again here. So now if you click two times, now it's showing all the things here. And if you can see here, I have hidden the blank value. So this is also one of the things we have mentioned. If you want to filter in this particular visualization, you just need to click in the filter pane. You will find this one, whatever you have plotting here, it will be coming under filter on your visual as shown here. So you need, for example, in the FDD technology, whatever blank you need to hide it. So you just click here and just make like this. So now it will be appearing like this part. Now, assuming you want to create something similar to the figure in the top, in the bottom left. So what you need to do, again, let's try to add a new visualization, completely new one. I will add it here. So now it's coming here. So I need again to fill this part. Once I added the visualization, it will again showing this part. So for example, I will add first the operator name. I will add it to x-axis, right? And this is my x-axis here. Now I need to add the speed. So it's called the speed. So I will add my downlink speed. I will just change aggregation from here to make it average as an example. So now I want to split it to have it like with FDD and TDD and two different as showing here. So I will add, for example, FDD technology. So there is something called here small multiples. Within this part, you will find small multiples. So if I drag and drop this part into the small multiple, see how it's coming now. It's showing the blank FDD and TDD. The previous chart I have filtered out the blank. I can keep it or filter it out. Let's keep it for now and try to change the formatting for this one. Assuming now you want to have the three of them in the same row, but three different columns, as here, for example, two columns and one row. So what you need to do, again, whenever it's about the format, what you need to do, you just need to go up here. I just need to remove this format and click in the chart, go up to format your visual. So you'll find something related to the small multiples. This will appear once you add anything to small multiples. So see, this is the layout. So you want that one in one row, it will be coming as a part, and now it's two columns, it's hiding one of the third one. So you need to click the third row. Now it's coming at this particular figure, as you can see here. If you would like to add the labels here, also all of this will be within the second pane here, which is called format visual. Once you click here, you can just click in the chart. Once you click in the chart, you will find this format visual. So you will have this data labels. For example, you can just click it and you can format it for whatever you want. Once you open it here, you just, for example, change the orientation to vertical. Even you can change the position inside end, for example. So it would be coming inside the end as shown here. So this is also one of the things you can do. And this is small multiples can be changed to anything. And this is applicable for almost all the charts, except the scattered, as I remember. And also it's not applicable to maps. Like for Tableau, it's giving some advantage for the over PowerBI for this part. So yeah, so this is the first part. Now let's move through the histogram. This is in case if you want to make some stacked chart. So summarize quickly. You just need to look into this upper level here, or you can have something like this one from the small multiples to add your into the small multiples. Now if you go to the histogram, so for example, assume that you would like to check the distribution of the levels in your network, like what is the current distribution, what is the current histogram. You have it, for example, this particular levels from neg 140 till neg 100, whatever, 140 till neg 140, and you need to check the distribution of the samples which you have it for example, a particular operator or operator one, operator two, and so on. So how to get something like this actually? So now again, for example, usually the histogram it's more about the also clustered column. So I need to click a cluster column, and now I have found my chart here. I'll expand it like this. So now the main point here, what I want to plot here, for example, RSRP. So if I plotted the RSRP here, I will just take the RSRP from this dataset. I'm using dataset 1 in this example. I will just drag it and drop it here. So now if I try to, for example, usually we just add it to y-axis and check the count, right? For example, I will add the count here. So it's actually working. As you can see, it's giving a good distribution, as you can see, for all the RSRP. This is a quick example. And even if you make it like click here and you make show, if you click on this value for the count and you make it, for example, percent of your grand total. So in this case, it will even give you as a percentage point of view. But now assume you want to control your bends. You want it like to have every 10 ranges would be neg 140, neg 130, or even every 20 dBm. Now it's just giving all the values within this your data. So if I want to my table, for example, and I want to this RSRB value, I search here and I check what is the RSRB I have here. So the x-axis is actually plotting whatever you have. for example, from neg 44, 45, 46, so it's like around 1 dB, 1 dBm as a bin, right? So in case if you want to change this one, you need to create something called bins. So if you move to your RSRB, which is already in the x-axis here, you can just click here, then you will find something called new group. Click in new group, and this is very important. So this page will appear. So now you have this bins. It's coming as bins. You can make it as list or bins, but usually for this particular case, we make it as a bins. So for example, here it's saying the bin size is 2. So now what it means by 2, it will be moving, for example, the found that minimum value is 140 and maximum is 144. So it will be moving neg 44, neg 46, neg 48, and so on. So let's assume you want to make it 10. This means it will be starting from neg 44, neg 54. It will be moving by stepwise as 10. So if I click here now, this particular part, what will happen? It will create something called, in my data again, dataset will coming here. This is because I created one before to cause RSRB bins. But once I created it, replace the value, and this is a new name, RSRB bins 2. You can even modify the name by double click here. So now if you check here, what happens? Moving from here, yeah, as I told you, it's moving by 10. Neg 60, it will be neg 80, neg 90, and so on, because you change the bin. So every time you need to do this, you go to the name, again, right click, and you can make edit groups again here. For example, you can again change it to 5. So this is in case if you would like to control your bins. This will make it more easy for you. And again, to highlight that whenever you add that as a count, you need just to change it to percent of the total in case if you want it as a total. If you don't want it as a total, so you make it no calculation. So this just will give you the sample count and so on. So actually the axis here is starting from neg 40, then 140, then neg 40 bin wise. So this is how we can create our histogram. And also you can, for example, make one thing, like for example, you can make here a small multiple for another part here. For example, I click this chart type, which is having line, and for example, the percentage. So if you click this one and change it into percentage again, you can again now add your RSRB, but this time you can add it as, for example, line chart with column with the count, for example, like this. So this one will give you like the count and the right here, and this is here the distribution case if you would like to see it as a different format. So now let's move forward to the next part. It's about like if you would like to have a quick calculation. Assume now you are doing a benchmark and you would like to have something quick to compare, for example, assume this is your data, the original, you want to get something like this, your percentage comparison of your downlink speed for with a particular duration or day. In daily wise, what was the variation of downlink speed. So actually, in case, for example, let me create first again from here, you need to click stacked column. So for example, this chart will appear. Let me minimize this part here. This part which appear. So now I will add, for example, the date. I will search on the date. I will drag it and drop it into x-axis. Then again, the date you can change it to daily, weekly. You can keep whatever you want. I will just keep it date. Daily means. So now I will just again add the speed wise. So now I will add the downlink speed, for example, in the Y column. So it's coming like this, okay? So now I just need to make it to the average value. So this is the downlink to the average speed. So it's like 200 moving up and down. So you just need to get something quickly. For example, you want to compare all these values with 25 or with 26 or whatever the dates you do. So for example, if you get something similar like this part, what you need to do, you just need to go to the column YX here, the value, whatever the value you would like to compare. So you need to click in this point here. Once you click it, you will find something called new quick measure. So you click in this new quick measure, and this will help you, like in case if you don't very familiar with the formulas yet, this can give you a calculation, quick calculation. So let's click now here. It will open a new page, as you can see here, called the quick measure. Under this quick measure, you will find multiple things. You can navigate it. For example, here, average per category, variance, filters. For example, I want to check the delta in terms of percentage. So I want the percentage differences from a filtered value. So if I click this one, what it means, it will open here the base value, my base value, which I already clicked it here. It was the downlink throughput, right? So now I'm having the filter. I need to filter based on date. This can be any other filter, for example, compared to other operator. So if you open this part, it will give you all the dates. Now I want to compare it, for example, with all the values, daily values with the 25th of April. So even you can compare it with 2 days, by the way, or 3 days. You can just do whatever you want. Like, for example, you call it to 25 April. Now select this particular day. Now what will do, it will add both charts together. So now, for example, I have both together. If I move this one here, actually, before moving anything, you can see it's already added here with the name of the data, your data. It's coming as average of downloading this difference from Monday, the day you have mentioned. You can change this name. Then it gave a formula for whatever we have mentioned for them. This is like was quickly calculated by the system once you use this new measure thing. So now for this visual, I would like to make it see like looks like whatever we have here. So I have, that's why the old data is already here. So even if I move it to the line, now you can just remove this quick measure for now. So now, for example, this is my data. You can see above here, this is the delta. So this delta, for example, you found us at 37.27. So this is actually 37.27 as well, but I just did some formatting. And here you can see this is actual speed. So you can even remove it from here and keep this one here. And again, if you would like to make the formatting, you can quickly click here and click and go to the format your visual, and you'll find the data label here. If you get the data label, it will be coming like this. Under the data labels, you can make whatever format you would like. For example, this is horizontal. I would like to keep it as vertical. So once I give it vertical, I will saying that I need it inside the end. For example, this is it will give it inside the end, as you can see here. And then down here, you can find the values itself. You can make it as black or red or whatever. So it give here, and the values itself, for example, I want to remove the digits, so I can just give 0 digit here, so it will be coming like this. So this is one of the quick calculation, which can be like for any other method as well, but I was just giving one of the example which we usually use. So what you need to do is just click here and just make a new quick measure, and it will directly open this kind of quick measure and will give you the same thing. And whatever you created, it will be appearing in your dataset as shown here in the figure on the right. This is called average downlink data differences, which you already created and shown in this particular figure. Now let's move to the scatter chart. So for the scatter chart, let me first minimize this part. For the scatter chart, as you can see here, this is, for example, a figure which I have it here, which is having a good colors and so on. So this figure actually what was showing, it was showing that from the drive test, you have the drive test serving and the neighbors, the levels during the handovers, and you have also the CQI value of the source. So for example, I would like to see what's at what point my CQI will start to degrade. So this is like one of the things can be done from the scatter, but for sure there's another methods. So for example, in this particular case, I can see that my CQI, which is above here, it start like showing as orange and red, starting from example from I think 900 around 910 start to showing very bad values. For sure, you have some exceptions here. This can be doing something else, but as an absolute level for the serving, for example, starting from 900, it start going down. So in this case, I can judge or I can give that under 910 my CQI is start deteriorating or start degrading. So I need to create something similar to this one. So as a visualization point of view, again, what you need to do, you need to go to the build visual again here. So where is the scatter chart? The scatter chart is here, you can see. So if you click the scatter chart, it will be appearing here in this page. So now let's see what we have in this scatter chart. I will just remove this filter here. So in the scatter chart, you can see you have something called value, you have x-axis, you have y-axis, you have legend, you have the sides of the bubbles, you can even increase the sides, and you have the play axis, and you have something called filters. So actually there is two methods to create the scatter chart. I will first highlighting the traditional one, and in the PowerPoint I'll be explaining the difference between both of them in case if you would like to try it both. So for example, in this case I will be using the traditional. So my x-axis is coverage, or my x-axis is coverage, but one for the serving and one for the neighbors from the drive test. So for example, I will just search for serving RSRB, which I know the data. So this is my serving, so I will drag and drop it in the x-axis. Okay. So now if I take, there is one point I will highlight, but now I'll just search for the neighbors. Also, I'll drag and drop my y-axis. Now it will be showing as a single point. Why? Because here, actually what I have done, if you look at this one, it's just showing sum. So it's just sum all the values. So I don't want to summarize. I don't want any aggregation. So I remove this part for both of them. So now what after remove the aggregation, it will give the x-axis will having all the values wherever you have your data set. I will do the same for the y-axis. Once you did no aggregation or don't summarize, it will be showing in this figure that, for example, at this particular point, At this particular point, for example, if you click here, the serving was neg 73 as a coverage, while the neighbor was neg 80 at this particular area. Also, if you click here, neg 90, neg 88. And before, as mentioned, if you want to add any other data, for example, I would like to add the serving RSRQ or CQI. Okay, let's add, for example, tooltips. I'll show you. And if you change the aggregation here, I'll explain more now. Let's add more inputs here as well. I will add the CQI. Okay, so I would like to add, for example, the CQI here as well. So I will make here as average. So what is the main point of this part? The main point of this part, if you click here, it will be showing the information. If it's available at this particular point, showing. So for example, here it's showing -9. In some cases, it will show all the information, as you can see here, RSRB for the neighbor, RSRQ, and RSCQ. This is the main function of the CQR. So for example, if you have the site information, you can click, drop it here as well. It will tell you this point it was at which, for example, latitude, longitude, or whatever. Any information dropping here, it should appear here as long as this point is covering this information. The play axis actually, for example, if you want to share some online simulation, you have a date. If you drop the date here, I'll try to show you a different example. It will start showing date by date, and it will just run automatically. The sample size, for example, if you drop this CQI, for example, in the sample size here, and I give an average, so you will find that this bubble size is increasing actually. It's been increasing based on the value of the CQI. So again, if you would like to format this one on a good visual, you just need to go to again, format your visual, and you have this markers thing. You have under the markers, you have the type, and this is the size of this bubble. So if you reduce it, for example, here, if you keep reducing, so it will at the end give you a good image, which is like this. This is in case you would like to have a bubble size. So let's turn this one to normal value. It will be very big, but I will remove it from here. This depends on how you would like to visualize your data. So now I would like to control the coloring to have something similar to what I have on the left. How to do this part? Okay, now before doing this part, I'd like to show you from the PPT, which I'm going to show you what we have it actually here. For example, this is how we usually control our colors. Going back here, this is how you control the colors. I need to go for one area of showing this, like to get condition of formatting of the colors. So you have three types to control our colors, something called the gradient, or by rule, or by field value. This is a gradient. It can be based on a value you are giving, minimum, maximum, and center value, or it can be like you can keep it to the system to calculate it based on your existing value. So you need just to change this format style to gradient. You'll find like this one. And for example, if you would like to give it as this is the differences if you want to give the values. Second rule, for example, Bayesian rule. For example, you go on to give if the value is greater than this particular number, then make the color red and so on. The third one is based on formula. This will be maybe discussed in the this can be discussed in the session of the DAX part, but this is also you can through formula you can give a color. So now let's quickly go to the Power BI. So now after going to the Power BI, you can see here now I need to change this part to make it similar to what we have here in the left. So I will click in the format your visual. So once you click format the visual, you can find this x-axis, y-axis. This you want to modify something in x, y-axis, and for example the grid lines also, and zoom sliders. I will keep this zoom slider now. This is the markers inside here. So I will just click in the markers. Under this markers, you will find that you have a color. Okay, you will just go to the color. See in the color, you can even check every and each single point, which is actually not for sure recommended. This once I open it here, it will open many things down here. Might take time. So no need for this part. Okay, see now it's opening all the values here. So this is actually not the case which we needed. So now we need to make it condition formatting. So under the color, you'll find default, you will find this condition formatting, you need to click it. So now this will open the page which I was just highlighting. So under the format style, you have three different ways, which is based on gradient or rules or field value. So now rules, you will just give a rule, and for example, if this one greater than this, I need this color. So I will just make it based on the gradient, which usually we use it the most. So now which KPI you would like to add here to see it as a color, as a heat map, for example. For example, I'm using the CQI in this particular area. So you will like to click here on this field thing and just write CQI, and you'll find this drive test input CQI. This is the aggregation or summarization. I would like to be as an average, because if you have 2 points at the same particular location, particular level, so I need to take the average of both of them. So for example, here you see that it's taking the lowest value as this color, so I need to change it, for example, the lowest to be as red here. So I will just take the lowest value as red color. Now I need to add a middle value. For example, I need to add as yellow. So I can just add here and go to yellow color and just again add as yellow color. The last part here is the highest, should be green because CQI will be the highest. I will consider as the best value. So again, I will just click it here. So once you selected this value, it will give this automatic. It will be almost the same as whatever we have in this value. And you can see now we have it, but you can see it's not exactly the same because here there is some zooming thing to make it more easy. Actually, there is a way to right click and remove these values manually, because sometimes you will have some abnormal values, and right click and exclude, but this should be done by one. We don't have the option for multiple selection in Power BI. It's there in Tableau, but we don't have the month. So there is another function. For example, in the data format again, this is keep it in your mind all the time because you will need to go here many times. So for example, you have something called zoom slider. If you search in Zoom, you'll find this zoom slider. So click this zoom slider. Once you open it, you will find now it's showing this kind of zoom in the X and Y axis. So for example, I want to filter out this. I want my filter to be starting from this particular value. So I will move it like this to -90 as an example. Okay, and same here for this one, I want to shift it to -90 as well. So I will take it down. So once you take it down here, it will be like kind of similar to the figure on the left. You can just extend it, make it like this to be able to see more for whatever you have. So now I want to make it till 180, 190, and also this 900. So it will be very similar for what we have here in the other figure. And this is how actually we have done it. And this is the exact similar example. And as I told you, there is another method to without for example, to add here values without, if you consider to make this one as an average value and this one as an average, you can use another one to add a data field. I will explain this one in better detail, but this is the traditional one we mostly use. So now if you click here, for example, you know that this value having coverage is 115, neighbor is 100, and average RSRQ is 100 in this particular area. Now moving forward for the percentile. For example, sometimes the customer will ask you, what is the trend of the percentile top 10 or top 90 percentile or 50 percentile and so on. So what it means by this, first let's try to create a normal trend. For example, using this chart thing. So I have the line chart. I was just clicking the line chart. I will take it here. So in this line chart now, I will just add the date as well from my data. So I just set the date. I will just drag and drop it into y-axis. And again, I will just move it to date only. I don't want anything else. So for example, I will take the latency here. So I have the average latency here on y-axis. So I want the aggregation to be as average. So this is actually my average latency for all the samples which have it. So if I check, for example, take another one here as a secondary axis and make it, for example, as count. So now, for example, the count one means that for every, we have 200,049 sample at this particular day, the average of all of them is 35.9. So out of these 350 samples, we need to check what was the top 10 or the percentile, 90 percentile or 10 percentile or 20 percentile and so on. This is actually using a quick direct formula, which is part of the DAX, which we have it. I will just show you the formula now, and we can just explain about the DAX more. But DAX is simply like creating some formulas which helping you in your calculation. So for example, if the customer asking you as you take an action and he want to check what was the top 10 percentile. So in this case, top 10 percentile or the percentile 10% for the latency, this means that, for example, I would like click here and the measure, whatever, it can be anywhere. So once you, for example, you click here, above here you have a new measure. You can get it from the table tools. Once you click on the chart, if you want back, for example, to the home page, if you click here again, and if you click in any of the tables, whatever you want to create, So for example, once you click in the table, it will give you this kind of table tools. So you can just add this measure under any of those data sets. So I will add this new measure here. So there is two methods, just to right click here and just make as a new measure, or to click in the table you would like to add and just add a new measure as well from here, which is in the top left here. So I'll just make a new level. So it's actually very easy. So for example, I would like to check the 10 percentile. So let's assume this one called 10 percentile. So now the formula, direct formula is called percentile. So you have this inclusive and exclusive. Usually use any of them. It's like very similar. There are no many major differences. So for example, I will use this one. So this is it's just like once you open it, it will give you explanation percentile dot inclusive. What is the column value? So I would like to have the latency, right? So I will just search latency, write the latency. So it will show you me that this dataset one having column called latency millisecond. So I will click it here. Then I will give comma. Then you can see column dot k. K, this is the percentile. For example, I want the 10 percentile. So if I like this, now it will give me something called percentile, 10 percentile. It will be plotted here. See, it's coming. It's not yet plotted. Because I created under this new measure. Now it's coming here. So you can drag it and drop it, for example, under the y-axis. So now this is my 10 percentile. If I remove this one, for example, the overall average, this would be my 10 percentile. So let's now assume that you want to check the 90 percentile or the 50 percentile. So we are expecting the 90 percentile will be very close to the average value, right? So just right click again here and just created a new measure. I'll just copy paste the formula which we created here. This is 10 percentile. I will just change it, for example, to 90. And this, instead of 0.1, I will just change it to 0.9. So here we'll have our 10 percentile. It will be created under this measure 2, which is something I have it here. So if you drag and drop here, now it be coming above. So this is my 10 percentile. It's like around 51. So if again I added the latency here, this is the latency overall metric. I'll take the average value. So see, you can see that the 10 percentile is down here because this is showing the lower value, and this was my 90 percentile. And you can keep doing this. And this is like in case if the customer is looking to check the percentile trend in network. So now moving forward to the table comparison, actually it's not something really advanced, but it just have some tricks. You might face it, especially if you just started using the Power BI. So in case, for example, you have two different table and you have the matrix table. So I will just click in the matrix table and see what we have. So in matrix table, for example, assume that you want to have a comparison between multiple KPIs. So I will just take whatever KPIs in this here data we have, and I'll drag drop it into the row values. So I will just drag and drop in the values down here. So if you click here, it will just keep putting it in the value sheet. You can see I just drag and drop into value sheet. You can see here. Okay. So now I'm just adding more KPIs. Okay. So now it's coming like this. As you can see this, if I click here, focus mode. So this is all my KPI. It's coming like this. So now assuming I want to switch, I want to see it as a column, not as a row. So you can again go to the format visual and just search for something called a switch. See, this one is going switch row values and row groups rather than columns. So if I click this one, now it will be giving this part for you as here as value, for example, average latency like this. So in case now you would like to compare or have a benchmark with two different dates. So in this case, what you need to do, I need to add something into the columns. For example, I will add the date. I will add the date into the column here. Assume now I would like to keep the month. Here is skimming the year. I would like to keep the month value. So if I want to keep the month value, I will remove everything. And so let's keep the, actually this is within the same, so it will not make a big differences. So let's remove all. I'll just make like that hierarchy. Okay. I think we have the months, we have different months. So let's see. Let's again do it like this. And I'll just keep the month value. If I remove this too, and just keep the month. See, it's giving now the differences between April and May. This was the value. This actually percentage thing, I think we don't need it really, which is, I think, the second one here. I will just remove this one. No need. So now moving here, if you back to your table, you find that the April was this value, May was this value, and this was the overall total. You have it. And for the table format, it's exactly the same idea. Whatever you need to format as a colors for the values. For example, again, you go here and click on this figure, format your visual, and under format your visual, you find many things here. For example, you would like to format a specific column, which is average latency, for example. I would like to apply a header and this average latency, or the column you like, you apply, uh, for example, cell element, for example, the latency, you want to give a specific color to the background. So, for example, you enable the background here, you'll find that it's having this kind of color. Again, you have the condition formatting. You can make it based on gradient, exactly same what we have discussed before. So it will just range it based on what you have here. And here it's already automatic giving the average latency. So this one will giving like this. Also the font color can be exactly the same idea. For example, now it's giving also based on automatic one. So I will also give this one as red color, and this, for example, as black color like this one. This is also the, so this one actually see this giving blue value here and red value here, and this is exactly applying for all the remaining. And for example, if you want to add a bars, data bars here, so you need to click down here, and in this data bars you just, like, for example, if positive bars, so give me like this, and if negative, give me like this. So you can even identify a specific value. See, it's just highlighting my things. And also you can add icons. And also down here, if you click, you have icons as well. And the icons you can just add, it's automatic, add some icons here with some percentage. You can modify this one based on your needs and so on. So now I want, for example, to disable this one. So this is how I can get it. And this is how the table working. And also this is one of the examples of the tables. The other table, actually, it's just like, if you click here, down here, it's called table, normal table. This normal table you can see here, just a sort of columns, have nothing else, just a column like this, as you can see here. So usually you use this matrix table and so on. By the way, also you have something called a slicer. Maybe I can just quickly give example about it. For example, if you click a slicer here, so in this slicer, in case if you want to filter here based on operator, as an example, so I will just add in this slicers a field, just having this field thing. So now it's giving three operators. So if I filter here, it will be changing the value inside operator one, operator two, operator three, and so on. So now let's move to the part of the CDF career. So let's now continue with the advanced functions charts. For example, now we are going to discuss about how to create CDF, cumulative distribution function. Okay, as you can see here, I have two figures. The one on the left showing the CDF between band N1, FDD N1, and band TDD N78, which is FDD like in term of coverage differences, RSRB. So first of all, let me recall what it means by the distribution function, and what is the like cumulative distribution function, and what is the like use cases we can use it for this chart, which I believe it's one of the most important in terms of many things. So let me just put this one in the focus mode. So assume now you have a drive test, complete drive test, which is showing these two carriers, and they would like to compare the coverage. So usually we do it like even to visualize through the coverage plot, or even to take the average value, absolute value, average value. But actually, if you can see this figure, it's giving a very clear figure of the differences between both bands in terms of coverage point of view. Why? Because in general, commuted distribution function gives you the probability that a random value takes a value less than or equal to a specific point. What it means by this? For example, if you can see, our x-axis here is consisting of the coverage starting points, for example, from 105 RSRP till NIC 51. So in each single point, you can see the differences. So now if you want to, for example, the point 50 here. So at this point 50, it's telling you that at level of NIC 79, if you click here again, at level of NIC 79, the N1 band having around 38% of the samples less than or worse than minus 79, while N78 having around 50% of the samples, which indicates that N1 is far beyond. And also as absolute average, you can even get it from the same point of view. Like for example, here it's showing that N78, line of N78 showing minus 79, while this one showing minus 76. So at this particular point, we have around 3 dBm differences. and if you went above here, it's neg 73, for example, for N78, which is dark blue. And for this one, it's around neg 68, so it's around even 5 to 6 dBm difference in the coverage. So this is like, if you can see the light blue here, is showing that there is a good variation in the coverage between N1 and N78, which is actually very important in terms of coverage comparison, even benchmark. Like, for example, if you did a benchmark and you want to show a clear benchmark between, for example, the pre and post, or all other stuff, even throughput or whatever. So it's like, actually, it's like a running total running total of probabilities up to a certain value, and this certain value depends on your raw data. So it's just a quick explanation about the CDF. Now let's discuss how to create it. It's kind of actually, how say it, it's need a DAX. Or DAX, actually, DAX, whenever I mention DAX, DAX is the language used by Power BI, which is like used for the calculation of the formal calculation. So actually it can be created in 3 steps. So now let's try to generate one of these and quickly. So first step, you need to use line chart. As you can see here in the top right, you need to use line chart. So I will create one line chart. Okay, so now I'm going to use the same raw data for this one. This raw data, actually, if you check here, it's consisting of like in our coverage, it's having the band, which is N178, then the date of the drive test, then you have the NR serving RSRP. You have the equivalent RSRP for both of them. The other two I have created to create this one. So this was the first step to have the line chart. Now the second step, now you need to drop the coverage into the x-axis. So this is the main point. So you will take this one and drop it here. So actually, in this particular case, in Power BI, you need to create bins. So what it means by bins, you need to right click here, double click, left click here, then you will find this new group. So you need to click new group. So you will convert this x-axis into bins. You can choose a bin size even to 1 dBm, for example, or 1.4. This is automatic came by the system. So initially I will just give 1 dBm. Means what? That it will, for example, move from 105 to 104, 105, 106, and so on. Like this will be the stepwise as 1 dBm. So now if I click it, now I have created the bins. And the bin size which I have created, it's called N serving RSRB bins. Here it came here, it's already created here. This can be changed. For example, you can double click and change it to whatever you want. Like, for example, I will call it NR RSRB bins 2, or bins only. Okay, like this. So now, and the most important point, that whenever you need to change the stepwise, you just need to right click here, then just make edit groups. Okay, so once you do group, you can change the stepwise. So now going back to this one, now we have created the bins. What is the second part we have to do? Actually, usually what we need to do, you need to create to calculate the running total, right? Like how many samples at each bins and the percentage of these samples. For example, at this particular area, neg 87, the samples of N71 was around 30.77, and it will increase whenever you are moving for each and every single samples. So this means that at this neg 83, it's counting how many samples for neg 83, then it divided by the total samples of the RSRB coverage of N1. So for example, here, if I drag and drop this one here, it will be like showing like this figure, and this is like taking the count. So now it will be showing like this. So now it looks like it's look like the histogram or whatever. This like looks like the histogram. So now I need to convert it into CDF like this one. So each point, for example, this one should be divided by the total number of samples, right? So now in this case, we need to create a DAX formula. So I will just right click here, as we mentioned before. First of all, let me remove this. I right click here, and you have the new measure. And again, to recall whatever I mentioned, once you click in the table, you will find this table tools. You can make a new measure to create a DAX, or you can even click here, right click, just to choose the location of this DAX. If you right click here, for example, it will be created here. It can be created anywhere. So now I will just right click here and make a new measure. And this formula I will be adding into the video description, because maybe in the beginning you will be struggling to understand it. So you just keep it with you reference whenever you need to create a DAX until you understand it in details. So now this is how we create the DAX. So now we have the measure. I will call it CDF, coverage RSRB CDF. Then the first point we have mentioned, we need to calculate the total sample. So this actually use a calculate formula. So this calculate formula is asking you for the expression, what you would like to do. I would like to calculate first the count, right, of RSRB samples of the data set. My data set name is NR coverage benchmark, which is serving RSRB. So I will choose this one. Once you have done this one, you need to close this. Then now I need to calculate the samples, then divided by the total samples. So I need to calculate the samples, for example, for band N1 at this particular area. So we need to give a filter to look into, first of all, the bends, and the bends like bends wise, and also to look into the filter which you are applying in your chart. So I will just make a filter here, and inside this filter I will use another formula called all selected. And the idea of all selected, this one, that whenever I apply any filter within the chart, it will be applied if I didn't use all selected and I use only filter thing, so it will not consider the filter. So if I'm giving, for example, a legend here, which is N1 and 78, it will not show accurate results. See this one, what's saying? Return all the rows in a table or the values in a column, ignoring any filter that might have been applied inside the query, but keeping filters that come from outside. This is actually like the filters which from outside, which is here. That's why I'm using this part. So simply this one, I will give now the bins which I have created, which is called the number of bins which I needed, the data set which I created below down here, if you remember, in our RSRB bins. So this one will be data set in our RSRB data set one, sorry, in our coverage benchmark, this one. So now I have selected, this should be not one. I'm using the bins and normal bins. So I will remove this one. It will be this one. Okay. So now this is the first thing. Now I need to calculate for each bins, right? So if I'm here, I need to calculate the total count from here till the beginning, right? So at this particular area. So what I have to do, I have to do first telling him if the bins wise, which is my bins, this one, is less than or equal the maximum of bins. Again, I will take the same one because I'm comparing to. So I'm telling him, please calculate the count here for starting from this particular point till the end of here. This is just to calculate the count. So now I'll close this one and this and this. Now I need to divide it by the total count, ignoring like this kind of total count of bins, I mean. So now to be calculate, then again, if you let me take down here just to make it more clear. So now I'm dividing by the calculate, again, the count of total RSRB, which is this one. Okay. Then I will make comma. The filter wise will be now all function. This is all function setting y, return all rows in a table or all the values in a column, ignoring any filters. I don't want any filters. I just want to return this total count without considering any filter. Total count of the bins, I mean. So I will give the bins formula here. So now the bins columns. So now once I have done this, now I will do like this. Now it's being calculated here. I will remove this one and I will drag and drop this one here. See now, this is how it's giving me. It's like, it can be percentage. You can just click here and change. Once you click here to add measure tool, because this is a measure, that's why measuring tool. So you can just change the format, for example, to percentage. Okay. So now we have it calculated. So now, for example, I need to take the band and drag and drop it here in the legend. So now you can see it's giving me similar. And about the formatting thing that we have above, I will discuss it in a separate. So this is actually how we calculate the CDF. This can be worked at any stuff you are doing. But the main idea that I'm telling you, that it calculates all the count of the bins at each point, like starting from this point till the end, then it divided by the total samples of total bins, just to calculate this total running in terms of percentage. So this is actually what we can do for the CDF point of view. As I'm telling you, I'll drop the formula because in the beginning it will be like looks complicated. So I'll drop it until you understand it and until we go for the DAX, so it will make it more clear for you. Now let's move to the next one, which is about the moving average. Okay, so now I'm moving to the moving average. So actually what it means by moving average, for example, I have done this chart. Okay, this chart having two lines. The first line called average of downlink speed. I have this normal average, daily average. So for example, I can see a lot of fluctuation up and down, so I just need to give something more, I would say, more stable. So I need, for example, to calculate this point considering the average of this day and the 3 days. So it will take like 3 days average, from starting from 9 May, for example, till 5 of May. So it will give me the average of the past, from this day till the past 3 days, to make it more stable. So how to calculate the moving average? This is now, it came into the figure. Now another formula was called average X. So let me show you. So now let's create this from the beginning. I just need a line chart, for example. I will have this line chart. I again will add the date. Drag and drop it here. I'll just keep it date. And I will take this downlink speed just to have a similar figure. So now I'll take the aggregation as average. Okay. So this is my downlink average speed daily. Okay. Now what I would like to do, I would like to take this average, moving average. So again, you need to calculate a DAX formula. So whatever my data set is here, I will just right click, make a new measure. I will call it I'll call it moving average, three. 3 days. So now here we're using formula called, we have formula called average, which is the normal we have it, and we have average X. So I will use average X because average X, what it do, it asks you to give him the condition, and based on this condition, the expression you would like to change. For example, I want to take this, my expression is the average downlink speed, but I need to calculate it for average with a particular condition, or a particular, for example, I mentioned that I need the average of this day till the past 3 days. So for example, there is another function, this is the table. I will tell him, please check my data table. There is something called dates between, for example, dates between. Okay, so this between, for example, what it's telling him, this is another function. This asking me about the date column, and what is the start date you would like to take to calculate the average, and what is the end date, for example. So I'm telling him the dates is my dates column in dataset one. It's called datasets date, this one, right? So I can dataset, example one. My dates is equal datasets, which is in my dataset. It's datasets date, this one. This is a date column. It's existing here, this one on the right. So now I have done with this. Now I'm telling him my start date will be the maximum date, right? Maximum date, which is, for example, if I'm staying on 9 of May, this will be my maximum date. Instead of 8 of May, this will be my maximum date. So I will again give this data set, or the date column, which is called dataset date, okay? Minus whatever average you need. For example, minus 3. So this is, I'm calculating this, my start date will be the this date minus 3, so the past 3 days. Then, and the start date will be maximum date. Maximum date will be the point which I'm in my chart. For example, I'm showing in my chart. So I need this one for the same one you're using. Now I'm done with this first part here. So now if you click comma, you need first to close this one. Now if you click comma, now it will ask you this. This is the second part of the average X formula, to ask you for the expression. My expression is calculate. I need to calculate the average, right? Downlink speed. This is what I would like to calculate. I need to calculate average downlink speed. So now if I make like this, now this would be my moving average. So now if I drag and drop this one here, now it's coming, see, exactly the same. And the main idea now, if I make this one, for example, 0, so it should be exactly the same value. It would be matching with this one, because my maximum date would be like this. See, now it's exactly the same. So whenever you change this value, it will just give you the moving average. Let me now quickly show it in the table format just to make it more clear for you. I'll just put this one here in case if you still not very clear. So I will just again add my data set here. So this is here, my date column. Then I will take the downlink speed average and values. I will take the average. And now here I will take the moving average tree. Okay. So what this one simply do again, if I'm telling him this is like my moving average formula is based on 4 days or 3 days or 1 day or 2 days or whatever. So I'm telling him the maximum date whenever so at this particular point, this was a maximum date. So it's 9 of May. I'm telling him -4. So it will go back. This will be my start date. So it will go back from, for example, from 9 till 5 of May. So this will be the start point. And the end point is maximum date was this one. So it will take the average of all of this to give you this particular value. And the same for wherever you go. So example, the first point here, we don't have any previous. So it will be exactly the same point. And for this one, we have only 1 day, right? So it will just calculate the average of these 2 points and so on. This is the main idea of this one. Now let's move to the third part here in this session, which is some important functions which will need it usually in your daily work. So this is group creation and so on. So now let me go to one by one. So first of all, what do you need by group creation? I assume now you have, like, as you know, like usually if you did any benchmark and you would like to calculate between pre and post value, or to have it in a chart like this just to make it more clean, even line or column chart. So usually, for example, you know that your action done here, so you would like to have one value for the post and pre, even maybe you need different colors in the chart. So this is actually where the groups, one of the function of the groups when it comes to the figure. So now assume now I have this again. Let me take one more column like this one. I create it quickly. Then I add here the dates. Okay, again the dates. And for example, the speed as well, downlink speed. So I need the downlink speed. So now assume now you take an action. Okay, you take an action on this 6th of May, okay, and you would like to consider this as a different color or different group. So from 6th of May till 9th of May. So what you need to do this part. So now your x-axis is the date, right? Which where you need to create the group. So now you go to the date, which is your x-axis. Here is the mark. Right click, then you will have a new group. We have done this before for the months, but this time we need to make it as a list. So here you can see, you just click a list. So for example, my action was done in 5 May. So I need to create a group here. If you see, I selected with shift. Then I just click group. It will come here with this name. You can double click and, for example, change it to post. And this is your group now created. All the remaining will be called other. You can change it to pre, for example, or even you can create additional group. For example, mention this one, whatever, baseline, for example, call it baseline. I selected another dates, which is called baseline starting from 30 and so on. So now actually, and one more important, this can be edited anytime you need. So for example, if you have any change, if you have any data added, so you can keep changing. So if I did like this now, I'll click OK. Now, if you look into this, it will be created as data groups too, because I have already created one before. That's why it's coming here. So for example, let's drag and drop this one into this figure, into the legend. Let's just see what we have now. So for example, see, this is your baseline, and this is a post value, and this is a pre value. We can just, yeah. So now this is the main idea. So let me just change the x-axis to calibration. So for example, this one is starting from 20 February. It's okay. 20 February. This is just to give this a pre, and this is I mentioned as a baseline, as a color, for example, and it's moving as you can see with different colors. And this can be applied for tables as well. So for example, in this particular table, I have another group here. I called it date group, so I can replace it with by the new group. So now I will have this kind of distribution, which is baseline, post, and pre. So now you can create a new group, and this group can be edited anytime. For example, if you uh, added a new data set, or you need to change your benchmark date, so you just need to go again and right click, and instead of new group, you can just make edit group. And here, for an example, I can remove this 2 days. Just I can remove it like this, and it will go back to this other, to the pre, because I didn't actually make a group for this one. So if I make like this, now you'll find some different color in between here. See, now it's coming as a pre because I changed this too. So that's why it's coming as a pre now. And this can be edited anytime you need. So this is one example for the group creation. Now let's move to the filter and sliders, how to make kind of filters and sliders, and also other functions related to the filters and sliders. So now moving to the slide. So assuming now we have these charts, all these charts is under one data set, which is data set one. Okay, and you would like to filter these slides, for example, by specific site or band or city or whatever. So for example, this is the data set we have. This is the throughput, RSLB distribution, moving average, and so on. So in this particular case, for example, for example, filter by a city, a specific city. So I will drag and drop this one at anywhere here. So now it's coming like this as a map because it's having a lot along, but I need to change it to slicer actually. So I will change this one to slicer. See, now it's coming as city 1, city 2, city 3, city 5, and so on. So there is another way around. It's like this, but usually what I do, I will delete this one. Then I will directly go to the map here as is shown here, and I will click this slicer here. So it will be created here. And under this slicer, there is a field. So for example, I would drag and take and drag this one into the field. Now you have this one. So if you filter any one of them now, it will change the value inside your, as you can see, all the charts within this will be changed, as you can see here. So now the main idea now, this slicer, you can have the different format of the slicers. And again, this can be done from the same, as I mentioned before, whenever you need to change any format, you need to go to the visualization pane. Then you have the second one, which is called format your visual. So now you'll find this slicer settings, slicer header, and values. That's just like, for example, slicer settings. This is if you want to change the style. So now it's giving as a vertical list. So now you can, for example, make it as a drop down. So now it's coming as drop down. I can reduce the size now. So this drop down will be here as city 1, city 10, and 11, and so on. And there is one like small trick here that whenever you need to make a search, actually you cannot find the search button. So what you need to do, you need to go and click up here. So it will show you search button. Once you click it, it will appear from now onwards inside here. So now you have it. So you can, for example, make 15, for example. So now we have this 15 city. So now it's filtering your 15 city. And now it's because you have the filter, remove the filter. You can even have multiple selection as mentioned here. And sometimes you need it to have only to enforce whoever using the template to use it, for example, a single selection. So again, go to the format visual and slicer settings. And this is selection thing. You will find this is a single selection. So in this case, you cannot change, you can just change one, as you can see here. This is in case if you're building a template and you don't want them to have a multiple selection. So this is the first use case of the sliders. This slider actually now, as you can see, is controlling whatever within the same page. But what if you want to make the sliders control 2 or 3 pages only, or 4 pages or 5 pages based on whatever you have? So for example, if you take this one, copy, just Control C, for example, and go to, for example, to this moving average page. Then I will add it here now, like this. Once added here, see, it's coming in the left here. It will give you this question. One or more of the copied visuals can stay in sync with visual it was copied from. Do you want to keep them in sync? So in case if you want to make this slicer control a specific pages, even all pages or 1 or 2 pages or whatever, just keep copying this one and just make it in sync. So once I make it in sync, see the values here should it change now. This one should be changing now. Once I make it city 10 now, see the average is changing. When I go back to my filter slides, you find that this one changed over the other page as well. It will be city 10. So that's why, because I make a synchronization between both of them. So this is the first method of slicers or filters in general. So you can create slicers, different slicers. Even you can add more slicers here. It's not only one, it can be many, even date, If you drag and drop it, or let's make it as we just mentioned, I will make a slicer like this. Then I will drag drop the dates, for example, in this particular field. You can see now it's giving me this function, and again you can change the format whenever you need. So now if I make like this, it will give change average, because this is like controlling also my thing. So you can add multiple, actually multiple slicers inside here. I will just take another one for as a last example for this. Now it's coming here now, for example, I can take it up like this. Then I drag and drop, for example, the technology. Let's take the technology. I will drag and drop the technology here. So once I drag, I have 4G and 5G. If I selected 5G, this will be applied to my filter as well. So you can see now my data is start being changing, and you can clear this one from here if you would like to have both of them. So this is actually the first way of sliders. Now there is another method, as I mentioned here, there's filters and sliders. Okay, there is another method called filters. As you can see, this pane, we didn't discuss it yet. So if you open this one above here, so you will find that if I click, for example, one chart here, you will find that you have multiple options. The first one called filter on this visual, and filter on this page, or filter on all pages. What it means by this means that if you would like to make a specific filter at a particular visualization, so if you click this visualize, it will come here. For example, you can go to down, this is whatever you are adding in this slide will coming here in this page. So I have this technology, I have the operator name, I have the downlink speed, that's why I have FDD TDD, so that's why all of them are coming. So for example, if I click this filter now, I will just give the blank value. So that's why it's coming in there. So now if I just make FDD only, see, it will give you only FDD, and this is only applied for this particular visual, not for the complete page, because I have done the filter under filter on this visual. So now I have applied here, and this is same applied for any metric under this one. So now assume now you want to do something filter within this page only, and not using the slicer. You want just using, for example, this kind of filter thing, and this filter override the slicer, by the way. So for example, I will take the technology again and add it under the pane of filter on this page. So once I have done this one, you have a different options. It can be advanced filtering, which you may, for example, make contains or whatever based on formula, or for example, the basic one. Basic one, actually, you just selected manual, as you can see here. So for example, here I will take only 4G. See this, all the inputs here will be changing in this particular phase, even my slicers, as you can see, because it's overwriting the slicer. And instead of 4G and 5G, it's showing only 4G now. If I return this one to 5G now, it will come as 5G and 4G. So this is just an important note to note as well. So now if I moved again, it will be like this. So now I'll take this one out or keep it for now. Now you would like to make a filter on all the pages which you're having under this particular data set. So you just drag and drop here. So now, for example, let's make it with 4G, for example. So now if you want back, for example, for this moving average, you'll find that this values is changing, but because we don't have anything to confirm it, so let's try to add the technology here and see what we'll see as a slicer, for example. See, it's only showing 4G, and if you change it to slicer format, it will be only showing 4G, because here my filter is showing, this is a filter will be seeing all the time removing. So if you change it again to 5G, it will be coming as a 5G and so on. And if you went back to the previous filter, it will be like as we have mentioned here, it will be 4G and 5G. So this, again, the filter is overwriting the slicers. Just one last point I would like to highlight about this part, about the filters and the interaction with others. If you click this one, is for example, this click a particular chart, it will filter out for this particular FDD 5G technology to give you the results. You can see things here. First of all, the average is changed here. I'm just giving you, and here it's just highlighting. It's just highlighting that this particular technology in this particular days, which is supposed to be these days only, and the same has been done here. And also, if you did TDD, it will also do the filtering like this. If you even selected this two, it will be selecting this two like this, highlighting whatever values we have. So whatever you do on this chart, you are doing. But what if you want to change, first of all, not to be highlighting like this, you just need to show the values itself without highlighting the background, which is not used actually. So in this case, you need to do one thing. And also there is another point. If you would like not to, if you touch this one, you would like this one not to change any of those charts. So there is a method. So what you need to do, you need to click this format, the chart. If you click outside here first, anything here, it will back to the whatever you have. So now you can click in this chart and any of those charts and go to the format, and you have this edit interactions. So edit interaction, this is to control my interaction. So once I edit this one, I'm clicking here, you can see it starts showing this kind of things here. So for example, here this is saying what if I click here, none. None means if I click like this and I now click here, it will not make any filter for this one. See, it's just filtering the other stuff. If I make it, for example, like this, highlight. So highlight means it will just keep highlighting as we mentioned before, like highlighting the values which has been filtered here. But now I just want to filter out, not highlight. So I need to click the third one, which is filter. So if I click here, now it will just filter the values without highlighting, not the same like this one. And this can be applied if I click here as well. So it will be removing the filter. And if you do need to this one, you need to repeat it for each and every single chart. So for example, if I click on this chart, now it will be showing that what you need to, as interaction with all the other inputs which we have it here within this particular base. And this was the second part about the last part about the filter slices and new interaction. Now let's move to the sorting or advanced sorting. So actually in sorting in general, in sorting, we have, for example, we have this data set, as you can see here. I have five draft tests. This is downlink user throughput and this is uplink user throughput. And because the sequence is DT1, DT2, DT3, and DT4 and DT5, so now it's giving you the sorting like this. Assume now you want to start from DT5 till DT1. So this is very simple and easy forward. Like you can just click here in this more option, you will find this sort axis. So you would like to sort based on what? Your throughput value, because you have the throughput inside it, or based on DT benchmark. So in this case, for example, I want to make it based on the x-axis with DT benchmark. So I'll make it descending. So in the case of descending, now starting from DT5 till DT1 and so on. And this is the same idea here. And if you make, for example, from the other sort based on the throughput, so it will just sort it based on the throughput values, for example, from the higher to lowest, or even the opposite way around, which is like this. So now what means when I mention advanced sorting? Actually, there is like kind of not a straightforward work here. For example, assume now you would like to have a different sequence uh, of of sorting. Instead, for example, if starting from ascending or descending DT1 till DT5, you need to start with DT3, for example, then DT2, then DT4, then DT1, and like this. You need to change the sequence or the sorting order. So this is one of the most tricky things in Power BI. Whenever you need to do something like this, uh, you need to do like anything you need to do additional. So you will always need something called like support table. So in this case, for example, what I need to do, I need to go to the home page, and now I will just create a support or additional table, addition dataset table. Okay. And in dataset table, I will just give the sorting order on the select mode. So let me explain more. So for example, here you have under home page, you have this enter data. So this enter data, you can enter data manually. You can see it's saying create a new table by typing or pasting in new content. So I will just click here. So now it will be opening this data. I will call this, for example, DT sorting order. Okay, like this. DT sorting order. This is the table name. Now I'll just like now rename this one. For example, I will mention as DT underscore benchmark. This is just the column name. We have how many DT we have? DT1, DT2, DT3, DT4, DT5. Now I just need to change the sorting, right? Sorting order. This can be any name. So for example, I want to start with this one. So I give it one, and this should be the second and third, just like whatever order you like for, and then you make five. So once you have done this, now you can just load it. You will find it will come here in the right side. So now you have it's coming now. You have this DT sorting order. You can see here if you open this one. This now if you go to the dataset. and you click it here, DT sorting order here. It will be coming as a table format as we have just done. So now what we need to do, now we need actually to link this data has been taken from the data set one, as you can see here. I have a DT benchmark. It's here, this kind of column. Okay, so I need to link the table with this one to be able to use the other one, because the other one having a sorted order. So what we need, first of all, like this one, actually, if you click it here, you can, within the same data set, you can just go click in any one of those and just, for example, make it sort by a specific column. I need to sort this DT benchmark by a specific column within the same data set. This is, for example, if you tried in this example, let's say that you want to sort it by the city ID or date. For example, I have date. It will give us some error. We cannot serve the DT benchmark by date. There cannot be more than one value in date for the same value in DT benchmark. It needs like one-to-one mapping. So this is not available now. So I need now to do one thing. This is like considered as introduction for the data modeling. So now I have created one table called data sorting order. Now I need to link this DT benchmark from here to here, just to start using this particular area as instead of x-axis here for the data using from dataset one, I need to use it from data sort order. So I need to have a link between them, and this is where the model view come into model. This is considered as introduction now until we go in details more in this one. So if you click this data model, you'll find, first of all, you have our data is called dataset, right? This is our dataset. This is our dataset which having the DT benchmark column, and this is the one we just created. It's called DT sorting order, right? This is the one we have call it here. So now let me just delete whatever I created here. So now what I would like to sort now, I would like to use here. If I went back to this column, in this particular dataset, I'm using something called DT benchmark, right? So now if I went back here, I want to link between this DT benchmark and the T benchmark in this particular column as well, in this particular table, to have a link between them just to start using the one on the right. Let me explain more. Yeah, for example, this one, DT benchmark. So I just like need to create a relation between. So I just need to take it and drag it to the DT sorting order. See, now it's created like a link, but it's still, for me, it's not very clear what this means. Okay. Uh, so now let me first read it and create it again just to explain it more. This is like in case you want to do directly. See, you want to read the relation tab, you just create a relationship between both of them just to be able to use this one instead of this one. So, for example, assume this one have 100 of columns and it's very difficult for you to find whatever you're looking for. Like in this case, it would be kind of slow. So actually the other way around to create the relation is just like as clicking here, you find in home page, there is something called manage relationship. So I'll click it here. So for example, now it's telling I need to, this is just showing the existing relation. Forget about it. Now you need to create a new relation between this dataset table and the DT sorting order. So I will just click new. And here select the table and column that are related. So now you need to take this dataset, right? And within dataset, you need to take, and the second column is the DT sorting order, which is this one. So this is the T benchmark, right? So now you can go here until you find your DT sorting order, which is supposed to have the same data. See the T benchmark. So I need to click here. I just click this column. Then I can again click it here. So now I have created a relation. Now it's saying make this relation active. This is saying many to one, because actually this is like having many rows, maybe up to like 100,000 rows. So like each row is having this repetition. So this like mentioning this is only one. So it will link many to one, usually to give you the right connection. So for example, you'll manage all the rows here which is having the figure DT1 to this DT1. That's why it's called many to one. And now you can this cross filter the direction. You can even make both direction or single direction. So I'll keep it single direction for now. So once I have click here, I make OK. And by the way, you can even for example, you can see now you can just like, but this is like a wrong selection. So you need to make it to make sure that to sort the correct one, or to make the relation between the correct columns, which usually should have the same contents. So now I'll just make OK. Now the relation will be coming here, as you can see, dataset one DT benchmark and DT set one. Now I make close. Now that connection will be created over here. But that's it. The relationship. You'll find it now working. So actually, this is the main idea. Like whenever you create a relationship, this is just to link data between different data sets to be able to use this data in another, for example, in chart. So now, for example, I have this DT benchmark is using from this data set one. Since I have a relationship between both of them now, so I can just remove this one and now go to the uh, DT sorting order, which is this one, which I have already a link between both of them, and I will replace this one here. And now you can see, for example, here DT1, it's still taking the same order. So if I sort it again, for example, by DT benchmark, see, it's still showing the same, but I have to give a different sequence, if you remember. So in this case, what you need to do, you need to go to the DT benchmark, click it here, and change the way it's being sorted. So above here again, once you click it, you'll find column tools, then you'll find sort by column. If you click this one here, it's asking you which column you would like to sort it, this one. So I need to sort it by sorting order. So once I make sorting order, now see what it will do. It just, yeah, okay. So see now it's starting with DT5, DT3, DT1, and so on. For example, if you change again, so this is like following the sorter ordering which we haven't given before in our table, which was this table, if you remember, which we have created. So I'm supposed to see DT4 as first one, then DT2. So DT4, then DT2, then DT1. This is how you can make advanced sorting whenever you need. Now going to the next point is about like if you want to create some parameters to support your calculation. So now let's move to this one. So now you remember we have created this moving average before. You remember this moving average function. So this is the first function. So I would like to show you something. For example, here I have the moving average, which is called moving average. If I click this one here, right? If I click this one here, this was, remember we're creating the moving average compared to 3 days. But what if you want this one to be dynamic? Like for example, in going every time, clicking the formula, changing this, I want to 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. I want to change it all the time just to see what's happening. So instead of clicking this one and changing, for example, to 0, so once I change it to 0 to give me the exactly same value here, so now in this case, no, I need to have something dynamic control my inputs within the formula. So in this case, this is where, for example of the parameters which come into the figures. Okay, what it means by this? Let me delete this one and show it again. So now I would like to create like a parameter just to control my values within this formula which I've just shown to you now. So in this case, what you need to do, you just need to go to this above here, modeling, and under the modeling, you have this new parameter. You can see this new parameter having two functions. I will explain both of them. But first, I need this numeric range. So I will just click numeric range, and here this is the numeric range. It's just asking you about parameter name. I will just keep it same as this one. Parameter, I will just keep the same name. And this is the range of the values you would like. For example, this can be changed to any value you would like, for example, 400 or whatever. So I'll keep it the default for the meantime. So now this is increment step. You want it by 1, 2, 3, whatever you want, you can do it like this. And here just saying that, do you like to add this one as a slicer? Yes, I need to add it as a slicer, and let's see what will happen. So now I will create. Once I have created this one, see now it's coming as parameter, as a slicer here. So for example, this one here, it doesn't have any values. So for example, let's say that I make it till 20, if you remember, right? So I make, for example, 4 here. So this one actually it will not make any change. So now I need to control this one. As I mentioned to you, the formula which having here, moving average formula. For example, if instead of calculating manually, for example, 0 and so on, I need to calculate by a specific or dynamic parameter. So I need now to give me my parameter name. This is actually my parameter which I have created. So now I replace the value with the parameter which I created. So now I just change it here, right? Click, and now let's see what will happen. So now see, this one, it's 4, right? So if I change it to 0, I'm expecting to change in this one because now this is one taking effect within the formula. So now it will be exactly the same. What 2, example like this, and the maximum value you have created is up to 20. By the way, Whenever you create a new parameter, it will be coming into another set, as you can see down here. It's coming as with the name you have created. So if you click this one, for example, just use the formula. This is created by automatic by system, like series from 0 to 20, and the step is 1, just explaining to you what you are doing. And this is the main idea about creating parameters. This can be created in any of other function you have it, or during your work, especially when you go to the advanced level. Now, what is the second function of creating parameters? If you remember, when you make like data modeling here, and we click a new parameter, you have fields and a range. What's the differences? Numeric range already described. Fields, let's say. Okay, you can see this right in the right here. I have many metrics inside: average latency, throughput, latency bottom 10%, or SRB uplink throughput. You can see I have created something called KPI list. So for example, if I check this one, it will start changing within this one, just giving me the latency, average latency, and the average latency, and so on, and downlink throughput, for example. So it will give me the downlink throughput as well, and same, and so on. Okay, so now I have used this like KPI list to give more control, just make it quickly for me. And also this is important for something called like whenever you would like to publish your report, but keep this one for now. But this is like a KPI list, and this is a function of creating parameters. I'll show you how it can be done. Even though also there is something else, I have done it here. For example, you have here the comparison, or the axis is the dates, right? Friday, Monday, whatever is day. So for example, this also list, if I make it by date, see what it will do. It will make it like as dates. You can even change whenever you will like, as long as you have it in your list. So in this case, what you need to do, I will just remove these two, or even I can just drop it down here, and I will remove whatever I have here, and just show like how to do this part. I need to have something similar like this and see how we can do it. Okay. So in this case, you need to go modeling. Okay. So in this modeling, for example, you need to have this fields things. So in these fields, I need to create, for example, something to control my dates. Okay. So in these dates, I'm going to use the datasets under this one. I will just make a list. Okay. What it means by this, for example, I would like to add whatever I have here as dates. I will just add it. I'm just clicking day name, for example. I need also to have DT benchmark as an example. And if you go down here, we have the week of year. This is even technology can be added. Whatever you need to add here, dates, whatever, based on your whatever you're doing. So now I will create this one, will be created as a parameter with a list. It will having a list slicer which contains this particular list, and this can, you can add it or remove whatever you want. So now create. Now this one, it will be called dates2, and it will be created as a slicer here. So now I'll just take this one above here now. This is what, and again, you can just change the slicer formatting from here, format visual, and just slicer settings. You can, for example, make it drop down. So now I have this drop down list. I have drop down list here. Just keep it for now. Now let's select, create another one, modeling for the list of the KPIs. So I will just make it as fields. Then this one, I will call it KPIs list 2. Now I will just, on this one, whenever you do it, it should be a measure. It should be something you already having like a formally calculated there. It cannot take a number of fields. So for example, this one, I will select it, a measure, all the measure which I have in here. So now I have this kind of KPIs which is being collected. So just again, the note, this one, if you went down here and try to select any of the data which you have it will not be really, example, if you selected something not created, it will not be really working, but let's see what we'll have now, especially if you're speaking about values. Let's see how this one will be coming as a value. Okay, so now let's see. Now create this one. I'll tell you like why I have mentioned this, just to make it clear as well. So now I have this. Also, I will make it as drop down. Okay. So now let's do like this. Now this chart, I want to be controlled by these two inputs. So if remember, I mentioned that whatever you create as a parameter will be coming here. So if you check this one, called dates2, it's coming as dates2. And if you collect here, it will be creating a formula which is automatically created and showing this input. So for example, I have this date group having first one name of dates week group 2, and this is how it's calling it. It's calling it date groups 2, date name. So whenever you need to add something, you just need to copy paste this one and give the name you need and the column of the name you would like to add as well. This is like in case if you want to change manually in the future. So now let's drag and drop now and see what we can do about whatever we have just created. So if I click this chart now, I need now to go to again to the add to visual. I need to add this dates two to the x-axis. So now the x-axis will be controlled by this two. Okay. Now the KPIs list two above here. This is it's created already here. You can see. If you also click here, it will be showing this is the name of your metric and this is the set of the data. Like for example, do you know that this one was coming from KPIs here, KPIs value, KPIs average latency. So now this is the KPIs metrics which I have it here. So if I drag and drop this one into the y-axis now, I need to drag and drop this one into y-axis. I just open it, drag into y-axis. See now it's happening. Now it's actually, first of all, you can see just showing this post and B and showing all the KPIs. Okay, here it's showing all. It will take the first one if it's all. It's just take the first group. For example, this group. That's why it's giving this post and V. So now if you keep selecting this one, changing this one, see it will be changing down here. Post pre baseline. If you, for example, change the date, it will be also changing as a date over here. And if you are speaking about the KPI list here, you can just, for example, average latency. So in this case, as you can see now, it's giving this kind of average latency. Forget about the name. This will be speaking about it. And just the title, chart title, need to be changed. So now if you change it again, for example, latency bottom 10 percentile, it will again change the value. Downlink or uplinking the throughput, it will also again change the value. So this is the other way around of creating parameters. Now let's move forward for some of quick chart formats, which we already was discussing, but I need to organize it to you like quickly here. So I will go to the chart format. So here, for example, the figure on the left has having a CDF, and I would like to, for example, modify in the legend, in the title, y-axis, x-axis. I need to change this legend name. I need to make it bold and whatever and so on. So, for example, every chart we have, if you click in this chart, once you click it, again, you will go to the visualization. Second one, keep this one in mind because you need it all the time. Then format your visual. Under this format your visual, it will give you whatever function you have here. So for example, you have x-axis, so it will having under x-axis, you can do many things. Move the title, change the title, make it bold, or change the value and so on. Even exactly the same function for y-axis. And this is for the secondary axis in case you have. And this is for the legend. For example, legend location, you want it here, you want it bold, you want to increase the size, reduce size. And here, for example, if you want to add the zoomer slider, we already discussed this one as well. So let's quickly take, and here if you want to make it as a markers. So let's take one by one quickly. Similarities x axis, y axis, secondary axis will be exactly the same. So let's speak about x axis, for example. So for example, here we have something called continuous or categorical. So for example, if you make it categorical, this is like, it's just making like which is every single point. Here, just make it a continuous values. So if you make it like this one, see what will happen. It will like make it very strange for the slide. And if you make like this bigger now, see how it's working. It's just starting each and every single step is being showing here, and even the sorting change. So if you need in this case to go and maybe sort by the bins, okay, in this case. So this is actually the idea of this categorical thing. It's not a good idea for this particular area, but you can see now I asked him to start from 105 till here. It's kind of similar. I'm showing all the points just in case if you want to show all the points. So let me return it back to continuous. Now I will have it as a continuous. This is the first type of x-axis. Now this is the range, minimum range. What is the minimum and maximum range in case if you want to change something here? For example, if I make the minimum is uh, let's say 100. See, it started, the x-axis started from neg 100 as shown here. So for example, I make it 110. This one also will be changed if you check. See, the starting will be neg 110 because there is no 110. So this is will be starting point in the left axis side. So I'll just clear this one and same the other one. This is in case if you want to invert the range. See, just like the x-axis, instead of starting from neg 110, you want to start it from the minimum value, for example, which is here neg 51, and again, if you want to inverse it back, it will be like this. So this is about the range point of view. So this is the value, just the formatting. If you want to make it bold, for example, the x-axis, and you want to change the color, for example, to blue, see, it will be changing here. And also digits, like how many digits you have, 1, 2, 3, in case of you have decimal digits. And now the third, the last one is about the title. For example, this one I want to change it to RSRP DBM. See, and you can just give a title here. You can even make it another color, for example, red. And by the way, this can be dynamic as well. The color can be dynamic based on condition or whatever. So this is how we have done it. Now close this x-axis. Same would be considered almost for y-axis, secondary axis. Now the legend, just like mainly it would be about, you want it in the center, top center here, for example, and like how you'd like to need it, for example, as a marker or line. For example, this will be changing this particular point. See, yeah, for example, line and markers. See, now it's make it line and markers inside here. And this is for the text also. You can make it bold, you can increase, you can whatever you do. And here is the title, or you can just remove it. For example, you have here band, you just need to remove this one, you don't need it. You can just even switch it off or change this one. Yeah, so this is actually the main idea about the title as well. So now let's move more for this part. For next one, for example, grid lines, I need to have horizontal grid line as well, which is not available here. So I will just add horizontal grid line. See, it's coming, and you can change the format and even make it like this, colors, and you can even make it more thick, increase the width, I mean, sorry. For example, the width of the format. This is grid lines. And zoomer, this is in case you want to add a zoom. Just for example, you want to go to the right side here, just zoom in a particular value, just to see what's happening. So you can do it like this. And this is a line. For example, you would like to make it as a dashed, in case instead of one line, you just make it as a dashed line. And let's first change the markers. I will disable the markers to make it more clear. See, now it's dashed. If you go to back to the line, you make it, for example, as solid, so it will be a solid line, and so on. And this is just around and how you need it. And this is the markers if you would like to enable the markers. And this is if you would like to add data labels, for example, which is not really needed for this part. And the one more important part I would like to highlight for you, for example, the title charts. Usually you have under this format visual, you have visual and you have general. This general is just like controlling the overall format from outside, even the title. For example, above title here, you can just remove it or change it to whatever you want. You can even make it dynamic, for example, based on a specific KPI. And you can even change this one, for example, to NR RSRP, so it will be changed above in the left here. And you can keep changing the format based on whatever you need from also the same. This is about the title. So title is being changed here. This is in case you would like a subtitle, something under this one. It can be under subtitle and also can be changed to whatever you know. And this is like divider if you want like to have a line and to separate between the title and the figure. And one more thing here, if you close this one, you will need that effects. So for example, I want to give like a visualize border. So you just need to enable it here. Instead of having no word, I will just make it, for example, orange. So now see what will happen. We'll have this orange figure as well here. Last thing about the formatting point of view. So I mentioned that formatting, you can come here, format your visual, and you have these two things, visual and the general. Visual, usually like within the visual, it will do all the changes, and general was just like about the chart name or title, and also about the border and these kind of things. Even you can make it gray inside here. For example, if again, move the last step here, effects. For example, inside the background, you need it, for example, as gray. So you can change it also from this general thing. Now, the last point, for example, I would like to add also format your visual, for example, for analysis. If you would like to add some analysis here. So, for example, I'm adding here some point -100, -80, -60, and so on, right? So, for example, here I can add constant light at the x-axis. I can, for example, add the x-axis, add one line at neg 110 or neg 110. Okay, like this. See, now it's coming. If you make like this data label, This 100 is coming above here. You can even change it to red just to differentiate between the existing. Let me first disable this one to which we enabled before just to be able to differentiate. So they have the grid lines. I'll just disable the vertical. See now, going back to data analysis, just in case you would like to add a constant lines or average lines or whatever. So I would like to add a line at minus 80. See now it's coming at minus 80, and I make like enabling the data label for this one. And if you make shade area, click like this, it will highlight whatever before this line. Just shade area, and you can change even the format for this one. And same applicable for the y-axis as well. If you want to add something, even you can add minimum, maximum line. This will be calculated by the system. Average line, median, even percentile, and even trend line will give you like a one line as a trend line. And this is applicable for anything you have, even for the remaining charts and so on. The last part, it's about how to create links. For example, I have here this button. If I click it, control and click here, once I control and click, it will take me back to a specific page. Okay, so now it's, for example, take me to this page, which we already just highlight. We already finished the first 3 points. Next 3 points will be finished in the next session. So now, for example, I want to create a hyperlink. For example, I have this particular thing. So I have this, I want to address this to a particular area. So I can just click this one, for example, area here. And once I do this, like, let me close this one. See, I will just click outside here. Once I click here, see what it will give me: format, rotation, shape, style. This in case if you want, like, but I want to take an action, so I want to enable this part. Once I enable this action, I just like this action type, I need to page navigation. So once I click page navigation, it will ask me which page you would like. For example, I would like to go to the parameter creation as an example. So now I have a link here. So if I see, once you just put the mouse here, it will say click, control click here to follow the link. So if I make control click, it will take me to the page which I have highlighted. So now if I click control again here, it will take me back. And this is like the Excel. If you'd like to insert any of these, you just go to above here, home, you have the insert. And under the insert, you have the shapes, buttons, and text, and so on. So now, actually, we are done with this first three parts. Next session, I will be covering the next 3 parts as well. Then I will give 2 more additional sessions, but this will be a practical examples to build a complete template, especially for the KPIs benchmark or other insights, just like to be able to have a practical example for these points together instead of having these points segregating. So I will be having 2 sessions for 2 video sessions just to show you how to build a very good dashboard and very good templates from the beginning from actual data. Thank you very much, and see you next session.